Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a really hard look at the geopolitical and economic reality of the modern drug trade. Now, if your mental image of a Colombian cartel still involves, those 1980s stereotypes of renegade outlaws hiding out in jungle camps, well, it's time to completely update that picture. Today, we're going to systematically dismantle that outdated notion and reveal what the true structural reality of these organizations actually looks like. Okay, let's dive into this. We're dealing with a massive evolutionary shift here. These groups, they aren't just regional thug syndicates anymore. They've transformed into highly sophisticated, globally integrated conglomerates. They have command structures, diversified portfolios, and international logistics networks that seriously rival the most efficient legal businesses on the planet. To truly grasp the threat they pose, we've got to look at them not just as criminals, but as a sprawling multinational corporate enterprise. So think of this agenda as our corporate prospectus. We'll be covering 1. The underworld bureaucrats. 2. The global supply chain. 3. Conquering international markets. 4. Diversifying the portfolio. 5. Corporate finance and laundering. And finally, 6. High-tech research and development. Let's jump right into Section 1, the underworld bureaucrats. Because to understand this company, we first need to introduce the board of directors. So, here are the three main players governing this landscape right now. First up, we have the Clan del Golfo, or AGC. These guys are the ultimate underworld bureaucrats. And what's really fascinating is they operate this vast franchise system. They literally tax every single criminal activity within their territory, effectively stepping in and just replacing the state. Then you've got the ELN. They operate more like border lords, pretty much erasing the boundary between Colombia and Venezuela to carve out this massive geopolitical sanctuary. And finally, the FARC dissidents. These are the heavily armed factions that basically rejected the peace deals, and they command immense territorial reach and manpower. Together, these three hold the keys to the world's cocaine supply. Which brings us to Section 2, the global supply chain. Like any Fortune 500 company, they need seamless sourcing and logistics. And this brilliantly illustrates how vertically integrated this entire process has become across South America, because it doesn't all happen just in Colombia anymore. Step 1, you have armed factions like the Commandos de la Frontera buying raw cocoa base way down in Peru, basically hedging against local eradication efforts. Step 2, they move that raw material across the border into Colombian jungle labs for refining. And then Step 3, they hand off the maritime logistics to a Brazilian prison gang, the PCC, who manage the transport straight down the Amazon River. It's a stunning example of multinational corporate cooperation. Now, to get this product out of the continent, they rely on two major logistical pipelines. The first is river transport, basically using the Amazon as a massive, completely untrackable conveyor belt for illicit goods. But the second one is what's truly shocking: air transport. Here, we see the downright complicity of the Venezuelan military. Through partnerships with the Cartel of the Suns, these cartels are using hundreds of clandestine Venezuelan airstrips. They entirely bypass Colombian radar, forming this commercially integrated criminal zone that's actually protected by a foreign regime. Crazy, right? All right, Section 3, conquering international markets. Why are they looking past the US? Let's look at their global expansion. You have to look at the sheer audacity of their European pipeline. They are routing massive shipments through countries in West Africa, totally exploiting weak institutional capacity as a staging ground. From there, the product gets handed over to powerful European distributors. We're talking the Italian 'Ndrangheta and the Balkan cartels. And to guarantee delivery, they use what's called the Trojan horse method. This means armed cartel operatives are literally sealing themselves inside the shipping containers, sitting alongside the drugs for the entire transatlantic voyage just to protect the cargo. No way, right? Okay, I want you to guess what this number means. $165,000. It's a staggering figure. Give up? This is the wholesale price for a single kilogram of cocaine in Sydney or Auckland. To put that into perspective, that exact same kilo sells for about $25,000 in the US. So this immense profit margin has birthed an entire Pacific drug highway. They are moving products 8,000 miles across the ocean simply because the return on investment is astronomically higher. So the crucial point is, global expansion requires massive capitalization. And that brings us to the Mexicans. Mexican cartels, who are absolutely flush with unlimited cash from their synthetic fentanyl empires, have essentially bought their way onto the Colombian board of directors. They're on the ground right now acting as financial auditors, enforcing quality control, mediating local disputes, and even draining local tactical expertise by recruiting Colombian ex-special forces. They are quite literally the venture capitalists of this underworld ecosystem. Moving to Section 4,
diversifying the portfolio. Because smart companies never rely on just one product line.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of the corporatization. The Clan del Golfo has turned the Darien Gap into a multi-million-dollar industrial park for human smuggling. Get this, they've implemented a color-coded wristband system for migrants. It is identical to what you'd get at an all-inclusive resort. The color tells them your payment status, which smuggling company is responsible for you, and the exact package you purchased. It brings in tens of millions of dollars a month, totally independent of the drug trade. And just like any corporate service, there are tiers. There is an economy class, which is a brutal, week-long death march through mudslides and flash floods for those who can't afford much. But if you have the cash, the cartel offers a VIP route. You pay thousands of dollars for direct boat transport that takes just a few days. And beyond just the revenue, this 500,000-person migration creates a massive tactical screen. It completely overwhelms border patrols so that their high-value drug shipments can just slip by unnoticed. All right, Section 5, Corporate Finance and Laundering. How do they clean the books? Let me ask you, if you have millions in dirty cash sitting in the U.S., how on earth do you get it back to Colombia? Well, the answer to managing all that capital is trade-based money laundering, specifically a system called the Black Market Peso Exchange. It's an absolute genius piece of accounting trickery. Instead of physically moving cash across borders, they use local brokers who buy the U.S. drug dollars at a massive discount. The broker then uses those dirty U.S. dollars to buy legitimate goods, like electronics or textiles, inside America. They ship those goods to legitimate importers in Colombia, and those importers pay the broker back in clean Colombian pesos, which are finally handed to the cartel. Boom. The money is washed right through international trade.
Let's move to and see how this builds into an even more advanced system utilizing international proxies. Recently, Chinese money laundering networks have totally taken over the space. Here's how it works. A Chinese broker in the U.S. takes the cartel's dirty cash. Simultaneously, a wealthy Chinese national, who is just looking to bypass their own government's strict capital limits, transfers the equivalent value in Chinese currency to the broker's account inside China. The U.S. cash is released locally, say for real estate, and the Chinese currency is given to cartel accounts in Asia. It is nearly instant. Zero money ever physically crosses a border. There is literally no bank trail for authorities to follow. But hey, if they do want to physically wash the money, they turn to gold. Cartels will invest their dirty drug cash into heavy machinery for illegal jumbo mining. They extract the gold, and then they smelt it together with gold from legal mines. Once it's melted down into a bar, its illicit origin is chemically erased forever. It's then legally exported to refineries in the US or Europe, and the money comes right back to Colombia as 100% clean, taxable, legitimate mining revenue. Finally, Section 6. High-tech research and development. This is how true multinational corporations invest to stay ahead of the competition. The technological edge these cartels possess is, frankly, chilling. Look at this. In 2024, authorities seized a cartel's semi-submersible vessel that was equipped with a Starlink antenna. This was an unmanned drone boat, steered in real time by a pilot thousands of miles away using 360-degree cameras. It completely removes all human risk and can even be programmed to self-destruct if intercepted. On top of that, they're deploying custom-built, decentralized, encrypted mesh networks, and they're using hackers to actively track police GPS units just to map out the state's blind spots. Which leaves us with a crucial and very uncomfortable question. Can state bureaucracies actually win a geopolitical contest against a criminal adversary armed with the strategic acumen of a nation-state? We're watching organizations that innovate at a pace government agencies simply cannot match. They've weaponized the Amazon, digitized their logistics, and completely corporatized their existence. The war on drugs is no longer just a police action, it is a global corporate war. So looking at their balance sheets and their technology, who is actually winning? Thank you so much for watching this explainer. Keep questioning the consensus, and we'll see you next time.